live in 5, 4, 3, 2. We're live.
Good morning, Owasso. This is the Twins with Owasso Live, and this is the Morning Loop. It is currently 8 a.m. The temperature outside is 65 degrees. Man, it feels nice out right now. So enjoy this weather while it lasts. It's a little bit cloudy out, so potentially it could start raining at any minute, but there's no rain really predicted according to my phone here. So we have a high of 81 degrees today, but it's going to be very windy. So if you got sinus issues like my girlfriend and her sister, maybe stay indoors or wear a scarf or something over your mouth because it's really windy today. And yesterday it was pretty similar weather yesterday as well. So very nice, very windy. Got up in the mid 80s yesterday, but we went on a 12-mile ruck and we are paying for it today. So definitely got lots of waves and friendly folks waving at us and encouraging us on our ruck. But man, there's nothing quite as you think it's not a big deal putting on a 40-pound vest or 40-pound rucksack and with I guess an additional 12 pounds of water, but making that walk, it is not fun. I'll tell you that right now. It is. It was long, and I was my feet felt like I was stepping on hot lava by the end of on that last 2 miles, man. So that's tough stuff. So, but yeah, you find out about yourself. We pushed through, had the grit to make it all the way in. So that was a rough walk. I'll give you that. But like I said, I felt, but I'm glad I did it though. You feel better. You feel better doing it. So it just feels you accomplished it, and I just wanted to test myself to see if I could do it since we have a 12-mile ruck coming up for OCS. Now, moving on, traffic conditions are fair. Like, I don't know what's going on today, but there is no real traffic heading into Tulsa. I don't know if it's a holiday I'm missing or maybe it's a little early for spring break to be starting, but I guess nothing's out of the realm of possibility at the moment, but there just seems to be no real sense of urgency or traffic going into Tulsa, no congestion. So if you are going to work into Tulsa today, your commute's going to be very nice. So enjoy that. Now, as far as upcoming local news is, what do we got on the calendar for Owassoisms and for
Well,
the Chamber of
I
Commerce?
have not pulled that up yet, so you're going to have to give me a second on that.
That's okay, yeah. So I know that we have the grand opening of the Drip Bar is coming up on March 3rd, isn't it?
That is correct.
Is that today? No,
it's not. That's later this week.
Okay. I thought it's sometime in March. So I know Drip Bar's open, so their ribbon cutting ceremony will be this week. We'll figure out exactly what time and place. But it's finally March, so thank goodness for that. We get to have some springtime weather.
All right, here we go. We are in right here. I just checking it right now. We are in the 4th right now. There's nothing happening today, but on the 6th is the monthly membership meeting for the Owasso Chamber of Commerce.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Thursday on the 7th, that is the Drip Bar ribbon cutting.
All right.
And let me see where the address is to this location. It's happening at 2 p.m. to 2:30 on, again, March 7th.
Mm-hmm.
And it is at 9002 North 121st East Avenue, Suite 405, Owasso, Oklahoma.
Cool.
And that's that, and that's all there is this week on the chamber side.
Anything going on in Owassoisms?
Owassoisms, but I think there is some stuff going on Owassoisms real quick. Event calendar. All right, March 7th, the 75th anniversary of the Tulsa Home and Garden Show.
Wow.
So that'll probably be a big one.
Mm-hmm.
And then also on March 7th, Lori Fulbright, who is a news anchor, I forget which one, but she's one of our local news anchors here in Tulsa. She's giving a personal safety brief at the Lutheran Church, which is over there across the street from Hobby Lobby, the one that we pass when we go running sometimes.
What's a personal safety brief?
That's a good question. That's all it says, personal safety brief. So I assume probably has to do with protecting your data and information and stuff like that. Who knows? Who knows? I'm not Lori Fulbright, and I don't, couldn't tell you.
It just seems interesting. It just seems odd a journalist would have I know that a lot of journalists go through some type of counterterrorism training and whatnot, but that's investigative journalist and news journal, overseas journalist. It doesn't seem like that's something that the American news journalist at a channel station would be.
Yeah.
But either way, I mean, it could be interesting. Go check it out. It could be something as simple as keeping your data safe, or it could be something as when you go on a run, be sure you have mace and a pepper spray or something along those lines.
Exactly.
So I don't know. So go check out Lori Fulbright giving a safety brief seminar at the Lutheran Church.
Yep. Then we also have Little Shop of Horrors at the Owasso High School. So they're having a...
Oh, so they're doing a production of... So it's the high school's production of Little Shop of Horrors.
That's
okay,
correct.
Cool. Feed me Seymour.
Yep. And that is, again, that's also March 7th at 7 p.m. So there's a bunch of stuff going on March 7th.
Mm-hmm.
So again, the Harwood Garden Show is at 10 a.m. at the Expo Square.
Mm-hmm.
Lori Fulbright, and that's happening at 1 p.m. at the Faith Lutheran Church. Little Shop of Horrors at 7 p.m. at the Owasso High School. And then Home and Garden Show is on repeat on March 8th. Again, so is the Little Shop of Horrors is also on repeat on March 8th. March 9th, still Home and Garden Show is still going on.
Yeah, it's going to be all weekend.
Exactly. And then same with the Little Shop of Horrors. They're doing it on
Yeah,
March.
it should be. Yeah, they'll have the production that entire week more than likely.
And that's pretty much it. Like I said, it's just Home and Garden Show and Little Shop of Horrors for the rest of this week. And that's all they've got on Owassoism's page as of right now. But the only other thing that's kind of different in here is Lori Fulbright's speech on the 7th. So.
Cool. So got a busy week if you're interested in doing all that. So again, Lori Fulbright's little speech. You have the Drip Bar grand opening on Thursday, and then we got the Home and Garden Show pretty much from Friday to Sunday.
Little Shop of
and
Horrors.
Then you can have the Little Shop of Horrors. That could be fun production. From what I remember, Owasso's theater and drama classes, they do a pretty good work, so that should be a fun little thing to go see. I would love to see how they do the puppetry for the plant, so that could be a fun time, so go check it out.
Absolutely.
Now, that's your local news. And national news, what we've got going on, it was kind of a slow weekend as far as news goes, but Friday, there was a couple of things happening, so if you follow the Blaze, there's a reporter called Steve Baker.
Just to preface, though, the Blaze is a more right-wing...
Yes, it's a more conservative. Glenn Beck owns the Blaze media, so it is a more right-leaning. So there was a reporter that works for the Blaze. His name is Steve Baker. He was arrested by the Biden administration for doing journalism. In the police report for him being arrested, it even said, he was walking around filming and doing commentary about what was going on. So he was not an active participant. He was filming and telling people what they were seeing in his videos.
And just for preface, this was during the January 6th protests, riots, whatever you want to classify it as.
So he was left alone until he started doing investigative research into
statements
the Capitol Police were doing that were contradictory to what happened during the event. So basically what's happening is a lot of these police officers who work in D.C. are being pressured to change their stories or maybe give some additional context that might not be entire. Again, this is all alleged, but that might not be entirely true or might paint what a certain person was doing as a little bit more colorful than actuality. So Steve was investigating all of their testimony and then comparing what actually happened
with camera
footage with those specific officers. Once he started doing this, the Biden administration put him instead of as a journalist there, they listed him as a active participant. So now he is basically being arrested as a journalist for doing investigative journalism into the potential corruption of the D.C. police and Capitol Police for their potential or alleged false testimonies.
Which he was arrested on Friday last week.
So this is Steve Baker being arrested for investigating inaccuracies in D.C. Capitol Police statements. So this is what happens when you go against the grain, when you go against what the narrative of the federal government is. And he's coming out trying to expose the inconsistencies in the Capitol Police stories, and now he has been removed as a journalist, and now he is an active participant in the breaking in of the Capitol, which, again, is not true. And this should, God willing, this won't hold up. And it shouldn't hold up because all the police reports that talk about Steve Baker being there all say that he is a journalist and he was walking around with this camera explaining what was going on, not participating. And this is factual, written, documented reports of what he was doing. So what it is, again, the government flexing its power and showing that we can embarrass and imprison you if you go against us, if you go against the grain, if you go against the official narrative. Now, you can obviously disagree and be like, oh, you don't know that Steve was there doing that. But in the official police records and documents that were recorded, they say that he was not a participant, he was doing journalism. So if you disagree with that, look up the case documents yourself, look up what the reason that they arrested him for. And again, he is a journalist. Now, like I said, again, I understand. I have a disdain for modern journalism. I have a disdain for a lot of journalists. But this Steve Baker guy looks like he was not doing anything wrong in this particular situation. So our thoughts and prayers go out to him. I hope he is not incarcerated too long over this, and I hope that justice is done and he is back out to continue his investigative research into
and for those of
Capitol
you
Police.
Watching on the, if those of you watching right now, I have his picture and his arrest picture being pulled up right now on the screen.
So yeah, that is Steve Baker. So we hope that he is not wrongfully locked up for too long, and I hope that he is released and maybe even is able to countersue and get some justice done, and again, that's our tax dollars that'll basically be funding his pockets. But like I said, that's what happens when you get wrongfully imprisoned. You gotta teach the government a lesson to be like, you cannot wrongfully imprison. But again, it's the government. They don't care. The government doesn't have any money. The government has your money. So it's like, it's not our money, it's the taxpayers' money. We can lock up whoever we want and they can sue and become millionaires as much as they want. So that's what's scary. Now, another thing that's been going on is Dr. Phil has been crushing it on his current kind of tour. So we spoke a little bit about this last week. Dr. Phil went to the border and basically was talking to the border guards and the people who were in charge. And, all these kids have these numbers written on their wrists or on their bodies, and they say, deliver me to this address. And the border guards are facilitating this. They're not doing their due diligence. They're not figuring out if these kids actually belong to people living there. They just go, well, yeah, we'll just take the kid to this address. And it's obvious to the people who work for the border guards, like, I don't think these are these kids' parents, but this is where we're supposed to deliver them to. So the government is facilitating child trafficking, to particularly possibly child prostitution rings. They're just taking them to these addresses and going, okay, here's the kids. They're with their alleged guardian now. So Dr. Phil went down there and was talking about, he's been on The View. He was crushing those ladies on The View, going, hey, if you are for open borders, you are part of the problem. And if you are for illegal immigration and saying that there's no such thing as a legal person, you are part of the problem. Mm. And so that was last week. This week he went on Joe Rogan, right? And he went on
Joe Rogan,
Bill Maher.
He's been on Bill Maher and a few other local podcasts.
Yeah, and a few other bigger podcasts. Yes. But so basically the gist of it is he went on Bill Maher and he basically crushed Bill Maher, in my opinion. I'm sure people who are like Bill Maher to me is like a broken clock. He's right twice a day on a handful of subjects. Like, he's typically right about radical Islam, and he's typically right about how crazy the left wing has become lately. But that's still his party. That's still, yeah. They still have the same goals, but Bill is trying to rein them in a little bit so they can be more subtle about how they achieve their goals. So
we're also talking, this is the same Bill Maher that said George W. was Hitler.
Yes.
And then he was
back in 2004.
Mitt Romney was Hitler.
Yes.
And now Donald Trump's Hitler, and he's like, yeah, I was a little wrong calling the other two that, but Donald Trump really is. And we'll just see the next. I just have a feeling, it's the same.
Every Republican is Hitler. So that's the way it is with these people on the left. So it's just bad faith. It's always bad faith. So Bill Maher, Dr. Phil was on Bill Maher, and he was like, we need to return to religion and family. And Bill just laughed at him. He's like, we don't need to return to that. So it just kind of shows you the godlessness and the lack of, Bill doesn't care about family. He doesn't care about he doesn't care about the nuclear family. He doesn't care about the structure in which society is built on. He doesn't care. He lives. He lives for his indulgence. He lives for himself, and it's a very what's the word? It's a very selfish lifestyle. A person like Bill Maher lives. He doesn't have family. He doesn't have an obligation to anyone but himself. He doesn't have kids. He doesn't have a religion, so he can be a hedonist. And live however he wants and justify anything he wants to do.
Well, I mean, he is a hedonist.
Yes.
He's. We've watched I forget what podcast I was watching, but it was talking about they brought this girl in that used to be a former escort, and she's like, yeah, I used to go to his place all the time. Mm-hmm. And the moment that, she brought up, I forget what it was because, she never saw him again, but she was one of his regulars. And you're just like, my God. What a freak that has to just, pay for that type of stuff. Just like, It's so weird.
Yeah.
So weird, especially being that, rich and famous. Why would you need to do that?
Yeah. Well, you don't, I mean, it makes sense from practically because you'd rather pay someone who's not, is not going to, sue you or accuse you of, in this Me Too era that they live in. I mean, I get it, but it's still disgusting. Like I said, hedonist lifestyle. You shouldn't live like that. Mm-hmm. So, again, Dr. Phil was like, we need to return to family values and we need to return to religion because about 50% of society they might be religious, but nobody has an affiliation with a church. And that's what we need to do. We need to get back to family values. We need to get back to fixing the nuclear family. And we need to return to my brothers in Christ. We need to return to the Lord. We need to find our moral center and realize our moral center comes from the foundation and the building blocks of Christianity. Yep. Even if you're an atheist living in the society, your values are still derived from Christianity. Like, I remember listening to Sam Harris talk. He goes, we could make Luke Skywalker our Jesus. And I'm sitting there like, no, you can't. Because the foundation of how Star Wars was written is still based off of Judeo-Christian principles. Like, the ideas that make Star Wars great are built on that fundamental building block of Christianity, or the idea of it.
Yep. So was Harry Potter. Most of the best, literature and films of our era.
All the best literature are based off. Even if you say this has nothing to do with religion, it's like it does, because everything that you do or the way that your brain functions and thinks has the foundational building blocks of Christianity built into it. And even if you're writing an anti-Christian story or narrative, it's still got those fundamental principles of it within there that you're trying to disprove or say are wrong. So I really appreciate what Dr. Phil's been trying to do, because he was really, I feel like his show kind of hamstrings him or, stonewalls him to being more neutral than he should be. And now he's out here really kind of fighting and shining a light on the truth. So our hat's off to you, Dr. Phil. I mean, you are doing good work right now. Keep going out there and telling people they need to get back to family values and return to Christ, because I think that's a good and powerful message that people need to hear.
Yeah, I was talking about birth rates and stuff like that, how we're just now at only barely 0.1 point
it's like 1.7 or something like that.
Yeah, you have to have at least minimum 2 to stay at the same.
You
have to have 3 if you want to increase, at least bare minimum increase the population.
Absolutely. We need to have government incentives to have more kids. Instead, we're focused too much on climate change and importing illegal immigrants to tell people have a family. We're not going to tax you as harshly for having kids. We're going to give you incentives to have more children, to have a family. We're going to give you incentive to, instead of giving people and women incentives to divorce their husbands and leave them, we're going to give you incentives to stay married. Now, we're not saying stay. Of course, a lot of chicks will take it to the extremes. Like, you're telling men and women to stay in an abusive relationship. Like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's for the better of the kids, for the betterment of the children and the family unit that you stay together. You need to get over your differences and realize that it's not about you anymore. It's about your kids and family. Like, I don't like this idea that in the modern society we've gotten to this point where it's like we're better apart instead of better together, and that's a very selfish mentality that we have just taught our current society to just be as selfish and think as inwardly. It's Bill Maher think. If it doesn't benefit me, it doesn't benefit it. It doesn't benefit me, and I don't care. I don't care if I'm not happy. Nobody else. Then I'm going to leave, and I'm going to walk away from it. Why would you do that?
Well, that's why you have to have commitment. I said a relationship is more than just loving.
It's commitment
and
sacrifice.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's commitment and sacrifice. It's more than just, we
feels
get
good.
along. Yeah, it feels good. We get along.
If it stops feeling good, time to go.
That's why the whole term vibing is just
it's
silly. It's
pathetic.
like, because you can still get to the point where like, okay, well, we're not vibing anymore, so we're moving on.
Or chicks, it's like they call it getting the ick.
Mm-hmm.
I got the ick. Oh, because he said one thing that you disagreed with, or one thing that it's like, so everything else he's perfect, but then you got the ick on this one little issue. Now, I'm not saying that's not don't take it to the extreme. Like, don't have standards. Have standards, but don't have unrealistic standards. Like, he has to be 6 foot tall. He has to have this again. It's what I call women love the mark of the beast. They love the 3 6s. He has to be 6 foot tall, make 6-figure salary, and have 6-pack abs. Mark of the beast. You're worshiping that instead of worshiping basically the foundational building. Worship the Lord and then find someone whose values align to yours. Values are far more important than the 3 6s. Don't chase that. Yep. Chase the value system, and then encourage each other to work better and work harder and become the family unit, the building block of that unit. Become the foundation of your children. You're the building block of your kids, and everything that you do is going to be built in and reflected by how they grow up to be. So I know we're kind of rambling now about how Bill Maher, but again, I appreciate what Dr. Phil's been doing in these last couple of days, going out and, again, asking for a return to Christ, a return to religion, and a rebuilding of the family unit. That's the most important thing. That's why America has been so successful as America has been. It's because we have a strong nuclear family, and the government has done nothing here of late but encourage the destruction of that family unit. So, with that being said, that's all we've got for you today. I hope everyone has a fantastic day. Drive safe out there. This has been the Twins with Owasso Live. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you too can stay in the loop. And we are signing off. God bless everyone out there.